Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel once again. So in today's video I'm going to show you how we can draw lotus having different perspective of lotus flowers and birds. And do you know the difference between the water lily and the lotus? I was pretty much confused when I started with the water lily drawing. So we are going to discuss about that as well. And I'm using these needle pen for drawing. You can use normal ball pen also, it's totally fine. And with the help of pencil I'm going to draw some basic guideline for myself, and then we're going to trace everything with the help of pen. So let's start with the flower birds. So I have different variation of flower birds. So in the first one all the petals are pretty much closed to each other and we can see the sepals are the green structure at the base of the flower. So create an oval shape and try to fill that oval shape with the help of petal kind of structure in it. So we don't have to create too many structure in this particular one, having two petals visible which is very close to each other and three sepals at the base is fine, because this one is the closed one. And in the second one I'm going to do almost similar kind of thing, but this one is little bigger than the first one, so definitely we are able to see the sepals as well, and we are able to see multiple petals. Again these petals are closed to each other and the flower has not bloomed yet. So basically the structure is little bigger, and the layers of petals are also higher in this particular one as compared to the first one. So this one is quite bigger as compared to the first one. Now let's do one more variation wherein we are able to see open petals. So this is more like this bird is about to bloom, so we can see few petals are yet closed and few petals are opened up, and we can also see the sepals as well. So as of now you cannot see the difference between the sepals and the petals, but we are going to do some sketching so that we can differentiate between those two. So create exactly what we did in the second one, and then create one petal which is open towards the right side. You can keep this on the left side as well, up to you, and then create a fold into it. So something like this you can do, and make sure the petals are bigger and rounded in a structure. So when it comes to the lotus, I think the lotus has very significant seed pod in the middle. So let's create two variation of seed pod as well. So in the first variation I'm keeping a round kind of structure having oval kind of structure at the top, wherein we can see all the seeds. And second one you can create a rough oval shape and U kind of shape at the base, and then you can add multiple dots around the top section or the tip of the seed pod, and same thing you can do for the second one as well. But let's trace everything first so that you can see everything clearly, and do some extra shading and detailing so that we can see the differentiation between the sepals and the petals. While we are tracing these flowers, let's learn the difference between the water lily and the lotus petals. So petals are pointed and star like blooms when it comes to the water lily. For the lotus the petals are more of a round kind of structure, sometimes roughly as well, and having bigger in size, and folds and patterns you can see more in the lotus as compared to the water lily. And I think seed pod is also a major difference, because the lotus has very significant seed pod in the center. So we have traced everything. Now let's do some extra shading and detailing into it. So I'm creating one line in the middle of each petals that we have. And you can do cross hatching around the fold of the petals and sepal area to make little darker. So cross hatching means creating parallel lines and cross line. So the closer the line is, the greater the shade is. So you can do same thing for all the fold pattern that you have, and in the sepal area. Now when it comes to the petals, I'm doing some extra shading from the tip of the petal to the bottom and also keeping few negative space as well. So basically the tip of the petal should be darker in shade, is what I think when it comes to the lotus. And something like this you can repeat throughout the flower bud that you have. Now for the seed pod as well, you can do some shading and detailing at the oval shape, also around the base area and stem as well. So I'm doing some shading from the base, going towards the upward direction, creating some solid line, and then with the soft hand you can sketch that area a little bit extra to get some extra shading into that particular area. So I think this much is enough, and we have learned about the flower, birds and seed pod. Now let's learn the flower perspective. So this one is the closed perspective, wherein flower has bloomed but we are not able to see the center part of the flower. So create an oval shape, little bigger, and then divide this bigger oval shape into 3 petals like this, and every petals are pointing to the same direction, but we need to create folds for the 2 bigger petals. So creating fold on both the side, left and right, so that it should look like these are back petals and folded towards the front side, something like this. Let me rub this particular structure. Now let's concentrate on the flower. So this is the middle section, and then create one bigger petal towards the right side having fold in it. Make sure you are adding these fold, only then you are able to see the flower perspective. Create one petal towards the left side, again having one fold in it, covering the bigger oval shape that we have created earlier. So let me trace until this so that we can see what's going on, and then we are going to move ahead with the more petals in it. So as you can see, I am having left and right petals, definitely have some fold in it. For the back petals as well, you should add fold both the side, left and right. So we are done with the center part. Now let's create one more petal towards the right side, having fold at one side to make it look like this is folded towards the center part. Then again create 2 more bigger petal at the base. Again fold is important, so add folds, and then a stem. I think this much is enough for this particular flower. Make sure you're creating bigger rounded petals, pointed end, and having folds into the petal. Now let's create one more perspective. This one is tilted towards the right side, and we can see the center part of the flower as well. So create an oval shape tilted towards the right side, and you can do the same thing for left side as well, or in any direction you can create this. And then create the center part, the seed pod. Based on the direction of the oval shape, you will get different perspective. And then create the center part of the flower, the seed pod, and then create a curve lower to the oval shape that we have created. Should have little distance so that we can create some petals around it, and start covering those area with the help of petals. Make sure we are able to see the center pod. You can overlap that area a little bit, and according to the space available for you, start creating petals. So I have created one base petal which is tilted towards the downside, 2 bigger petals left and right, and 3 smaller petals at the center. And then cover the upper section of the oval shape with again same kind of petal in it. So in this one, I'm able to see the center part of the flower, multiple petals around it, one petal which is at the base tilted towards the downside. So you can keep like this, or you can add one more petal which is tilted towards the down direction. So I'm doing it on both the side. So likewise you can create multiple perspective keeping little variation in the direction of the petals, or maybe the petal structure itself. You can keep the direction of the flower different, and then you can add folds into the petals that we have. Make sure you are adding the right fold, otherwise you will end up having a wrong perspective of petals in your flower. So if the petals are from the back side, you can add folds both the side. If it is on the left and right, you should have fold only in one direction, and then you can do some extra shading and detailing into it. So again, for the folded pattern, I like to do some cross hatching, darker shade around that particular area, so that we can see those folds clearly when it comes to the drawing as well. If you are using watercolor, you can keep those area little darker or lighter as compared to the petal shade. But as we are only drawing here, so we need little different shade around that particular area. So that's why I'm cross hatching those area. And then you can repeat the same thing for the second flower as well. You can do some extra shading around the stem, and then if needed you can do some soft sketching around the petal area. So for the petals that we have, I'm adding curved line like this. Do not add straight line, otherwise you will not able to see the perspective of the petal. So try to contour the area. So contouring means you are adding lines and curves as per the object shape, and hatching means creating the straight line. So we are not creating a straight line here, we are trying to cover those area as per the object shape that we have. And I'm going to repeat the same thing throughout the petals that we have. Now we can see the main petals and we can see the folded area as well clearly, because we have used different technique for both the areas. So we don't need very dark shade around the petals, so I'm keeping the lines at distance, not very close to each other, and I'm not cross contouring those areas. I'm showing all these things slowly so that you can repeat the same thing for the second one as well. Now in this one we are able to see the center part, so create some round kind of structure for the pod, and then you can repeat the same thing for the sketching process what we did in the first one. So we are done with the flower perspective and the flower birds. Now let's learn how we can draw the leaves. So for the leaves you can keep the shape oval in structure. You can also add a wavy pattern around the edges, and you can also add folds into it. The lotus leaves are usually above to the water. It is not like water lily, so you need to have a stem visible, and then you can create the leaf vine, the structure which we see in the leaves. You can keep the leaf perspective little folded one. So this one you can create a U kind of shape having oval kind of structure at the top to create and to make it look like this is folded towards the upward direction, or you can keep the leaf open. So when it comes to the water lily leaf, the leaves are usually floating into the water, but when it comes to the lotus, it is above to the water, mostly 6 inch above from the water level. Now you can do some extra shading and detailing into the leaves as well. So with the soft hand I'm adding some extra shades around the edges, from the edges towards the center part, and the center part should be a little bit on the one direction. Do not keep in the center itself. So I'm keeping it at the lower direction for the first one, and then you can add vines like tree branch structure. So create vines and then divide into multiple sub vines as you are moving towards the edges. And repeat the same thing for the second leaf as well. So in this one we are not able to see the center part, so you can add some vines, sub vines, and obviously you can do some extra shading. You can cross hatch a particular area to get some darker shade. So these things are totally optional. If you want to do more shading and detailing, feel free to do that, or else keep it simple. And we are almost done with today's video. We have learned the difference between water lily and the lotus. So if you know any other difference between these two flowers, please do let me know. I would love to learn those differences. So in my previous video we have also learned how we can draw water lily perspective, so you can refer to that video. I can give you a link into my description section, and see these two flowers are very similar yet very different from each other, basically because of petals and center part of the flower. So I'm hoping this video is helpful for you guys, and please do let me know if you have any kind of feedback for me. And thank you so much for watching. See you guys in the next video.